Hello, all you Aptera disciples. It's me in the corner again this time. I'm hoping I can speak a little more fluently because I don't want to take out all the pregnant pauses that I usually make. I've decided to do another quick one, except that I'm filming myself this time. Now, this one's all about whether this Dave H fellow is genuine or whether he just might be set up, a stooge or a stage, however you want to call it. Whatever he is, he's one of the biggest palaverers I've ever come across. I've never known anybody to rant and rave about people as much as he does, or about just a ride in a vehicle. Nevertheless, um, I'll just get stuck into it.
But we'll let David tell you who David Huerta is right now.
I'm fascinated with Aptera.
First of all, just take a look at those square windows in the background. Now, I know from what I've seen that Carlsbad factory has similar square windows on their walls. I also have noticed that there's similar square windows on the Los Angeles event that he went to. And so we've got these two places where there are similar square windows, looking like he's working from some place other than at his own home. I don't think his home would have windows like that. Or maybe he, by sheer fluke, works in an office where he also, in Texas, has similar square windows. I don't know. Let's keep going.
How on earth did you get to do it?
I was at this event in Los Angeles and just hanging out like I normally hang out when I get the opportunity to. And
Now, the first thing he is saying he got this right in the gamma just by standing around, picked out of a crowd of hundreds, I would have guessed, in the day, selected as one person in a crowd of hundreds. Interesting that he just got it standing around because later on he has that same fluky luck at Fully Charged Live. Now, I've used two videos here and I acknowledge them. This one is from Drive the Nonsense, or I should say Drive the License, Drive the Drive the Lightning. And the other one is the Cretins video site called Aptera Owners Club. And both have interviewed Dave over the same events. So we'll be swapping and changing. You just try to watch for the windows behind. These are from not fully charged, from Drive the Lightning. And the other ones with usually him in a little box in the top right corner with a picture of the cretin. Well, that's the other one. You'll also notice by the voices when they're asked questions. But anyway, I've sort of swapped them around to get them a little closer to where they marry up in the subject matter.
Chris M kind of walks up to me and says, I want to get you a ride in Gamma.
You introduced me to Michael Johnson, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. How did you meet him at Fully Charged?
So it was really awesome. I was just standing there in the booth, just talking to somebody randomly. And the guy was like, oh, so, are you local? I said, no, I flew in from Texas. And there's another man standing next to me. He's like, oh, in Texas, where in Texas? And so he and I are just talking of like, I don't know, for 20 minutes, we're talking about electric motorcycles. We're talking about the Aptera. And that was Michael.
How's that? Twice at two events. I think the only two he's been to. And he was picked out of the crowd both times. Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
So he just was super cool, super laid back, and we were just chatting.
Yeah.
Everybody is super cool. They're all fantastic people.
And I was like, I don't know how, like, like, man, my chin must have hit the floor. And Chris just smiled, like as big a smile as anybody could smile. And I was just like, I just couldn't believe it. So, and this was kind of earlier on in the day.
Now, in this one, Chris just smiles. Just means that's all he does. If you take notice later on, somewhere down the track, he's talking to the cretin and he says Chris hugs him.
So we had to take the car, it was outside. We had to put it inside for the display for a little bit so it could be seen. It seemed like a very long day. Like every second was going by and I was like, man, I wonder if Chris forgot. I wonder if Chris meant something else. So then we finally, it was the end of the night. They were going to pack it up and they were going to take it out. And we were packing the car up. We're getting it out of the venue and we're just about to go into the street. And Chris goes, come on, get in. And Chris...
Now notice this. He was told by... who's that dweeb? He was told by... Gee, I'm getting old. My mind is going blank. Oh, come on. The skinny kid with the glasses. Anyway, Chris M. That's right, Chris M. He was told by Chris M. that he was going to get a ride, and that was first thing in the morning when they opened up. And he waited until after the night showing where the silly trike was inside, and they wheeled it out, and in the darkness they rode it.
As always, was super awesome. Like I was telling somebody how awesome he was, and then Chris comes walking up and he sees me and then gives me a hug and says, hey, thanks for coming out. And I just looked at the guy I was talking to. He's like, see, he's just an awesome guy. Like at the end of the day, he's a really great guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all of a sudden he jumps on it. He stayed below the speed limit, I'm sure, but he jumps on it and it was like a rocket ship. Like, I mean, I have electric cars, I have fast cars, but there's something about being that low to the ground with that bubble canopy.
Okay, so the description of the speed is like a rocket ship. If that isn't palavering, I don't know what is.
Around you, really surreal. And it was so quick. I mean, it's just flying. And then he kind of takes me on another long stretch on the back and does the same thing. And it's like one of those scenes in Star Wars where all of a sudden the lights start going past you. And it was fantastic.
Now, keep in mind that this guy is absolutely enamored with the car. And this is the second time that he's been to a showing of it. He's absolutely in love with this car. So what does he do when he takes the ride? He looks out the window, watches the scenery. It's as if the scenery was more important than the car.
And it just straight line tracked perfectly. Like it was on rails. So it was this very surreal moment, not moving, and all of a sudden it's just flying.
As far as I know, you're the first person outside of Aptera to ride this thing.
Yeah, apparently it's a very short list.
Okay, so there have been some people outside of Aptera that rode this thing.
Possibly, I don't know. When he just said, "I want you to take a ride in it," everything just kind of went to hum in my brain.
And I think, like Elizabeth, I think there was a picture of your driver here, a little bit. Yeah. This was your driver, right?
That's the man. He gave it a good.
Now have a look at the broad daylight that they're in. This is the driver, but certainly it can't be the driver at the time that he's getting into the car for the ride, because it was after the night showing when they wheeled it out in the dark and all those lights were speeding past like he was in Star Wars. So there's something amiss here.
Little shot, like in the limited area that we had, it was a good jolt. It was a good move.
And did you happen to notice like what speed you got up to?
No, no clue, because I was just looking out the window. I was just absorbing everything and I didn't even look at the screens.
But what was the gala like? This is what he told us.
They talk about their experience in the earlier prototypes, and that they were either rickety or they didn't have doors or whatever. And this felt so not like that. It was very finished. It was well thought out, well appointed. The inside was finished and nice. It didn't have the rattle that like I hear everybody talk about. I mean, it sounded really good. And to think that this is not it.
So what's up, Dave?
I have no doubt in my mind that this would be a great car for a road trip. Can't imagine how pretty everything's going to look like when you're driving around with all this visibility in your car. Like I'm excited to drive through maybe through to the Grand Canyon area, through the mountains, or through the redwoods, or just I think it's going to be just an amazing experience. And
I got the impression that this is a fully functional vehicle with the full size battery pack.
Okay.
And goes to full highway speeds and stuff.
You'll notice he never says anything about the size of the battery pack, just about speed.
I could guarantee you this thing goes full highway speed. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
I don't think they were anywhere close to being top speed when we drove.
Yeah.
And I would imagine it would have no problem going on the highway.
Yeah. You think you definitely hit 40, 50 miles per hour?
It's hard to tell, but it was quick and it was fast.
Yeah.
Quick and fast, but doesn't even know if he got to 45 miles an hour. And he had so much love for the scenery going past that he didn't even look at the screen once.
I mean, it moved really, really quickly because it's so round. Like I have a Porsche Cayman S, and it's kind of similar, but it's not nearly as engulfing as that Aptera. I mean, the Aptera, it really is a very different feeling sitting in that cockpit. The Porsche Cayman is like a windshield, right? And it's kind of more car-like, and this is more airplane cockpit-like. So it's it kind of comes around you more. Like it just kind of wraps you're you're sitting in a small plane more than like you're sitting in a car. So to me, it's like you're engulfed kind of in this windshield and glass, and it's just this body that comes around you.
It's kind of like the bubble of a fighter jet or something like that.
Absolutely.
So I would say it's more like being in a greenhouse.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, in terms of the acceleration, so this is the first Aptera you've ridden, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I've never been
so
in any other prototype.
Yeah, you haven't ridden the Alpha or the Beta.
Nope.
So you can't compare the two. Cayman.
Yes.
How would you compare the acceleration between the two?
The whole thing is and I also had a BMW i3. And that was BMW's fastest car from 0 to 35.
That was never BMW's fastest car from 0 to 35. Most of their performance ICE cars are quicker than the BMW i3 from 0 to 35. But if you want to go electric, BMW put out at the same time as the i3, the i8, which was a hybrid electric, and it was way quicker than the i3. So this guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
So the i3 and the Aptera was that the i3 always felt very heavy, when it's moving, the transition from 0 to 10, it feels like you're pushing a boulder, right? There's that you're moving a lot of mass.
Carbon frame on it, right? The i3.
Right.
So it's actually a relatively light car as regular cars go, but it's still.
I'll just interject because I had a quick look at the weight of the i3, and this Aptera with two people in it is only about 500 pounds lighter than the i3 with one person in it. And so there's not a great deal of difference in it. In fact, this thing can be loaded up to come close to the weight of an i3 with one person in it.
Feels heavy compared to this thing.
Yeah, and it's just that I think that because the Aptera is infinitely lighter, right?
So there you go. That 500 pounds is now infinitely lighter. I never knew that 500 pounds approached infinity.
At least half the weight, something close to that. So it really just moved.
Did he say at least half the weight? The i3 with one person in it is about 2,700 pounds. The Aptera with two people in it is about 2,200 pounds, maybe 23.
I mean, it was it was really jarring. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, it was really like in Star Wars, where you see when you're going into hyperspace and those, the cars on the side of the street we were passing just kind of just blended past us. It was very cool.
Dave had something to tell us about that.
Yeah.
For me, the car seats were really, really comfortable. Another person earlier in the day, and she was right around 5 feet, and she was able to adjust the seat, and she was comfortable in it. They get inside of it, and they're like, wow, this really has a lot more room than I thought it was going to have.
So we asked Dave. Dave, are you looking forward to picking up your Aptera in San Diego and driving home?
Here's his answer.
Yeah, so many people I talk about when they're ready to go and pick it up, they're like, oh, yeah, I'm ready to do that drive home. And I'm not that guy. Like, I'm not driving from San Diego Houston. I'm going from San Diego to Long Beach to San Jose, going to San Francisco. I'm driving by to show all my friends. And
it's a bit different to what he said earlier, because he said he was going to the Grand Canyon and through the redwoods. And even I know, we Aussies know a bit about American geography, but even I know he was heading completely in the opposite direction to Texas, heading north towards Seattle, Washington, in that general direction. This one here, he looks like he's mostly heading east. Doesn't matter. He's just making up what he's going to do.
And let them see how cool of a vehicle this is. And I'm going to come probably through Colorado, down through the Rockies. I don't know. I'm going to go a lot of places. Like, I want to make this epic road trip. So it's not going to be the 1,500 miles that most people would go if they were going from San Diego to Houston. I'm probably going to put 5,000 miles on that thing before I get home. So I'm super, super excited. I drink a lot of water, but I did not try it in the cup holder, and I should have.
Huh.
That little one about the water in the cup holder was after he was asked about if he had tried it out, and he didn't even do that. But doesn't matter. The guy got in, and he was oblivious to everything except the scenery flashing past.
And did you get a sense of like the wind noise or anything like that?
That was the thing. It was really quiet.
Okay.
Like, really, really quiet. It was just very quiet. I mean, I don't think we were up at speeds, past 45 or 50, but it felt like it, but it was quick, and it was very quiet.
And how about like road noise?
I didn't have any sense of road noise either. And I don't think the road we went on was a great road either.
Okay.
But the suspension it's pretty tuned in. I mean, like, I know this isn't the final vehicle, but
right.
Like, that's pretty good suspension.
Yeah. And it's, I don't know if Gamma was built with the old honeycomb composite or.
I'll just stop here and say that while he is concentrating on the scenery, he actually knows or evaluates that the suspension is very good. And he also evaluates that it's pretty quiet inside. So he's alert to a couple of things, but that big screen right in front eluded him.
The new, like the CF SMC stuff that the actual production vehicle is built off of.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the sound dampening qualities between the two are. So it's unfortunately we just don't know that information. So I don't know how much it translates to the actual production car we're going to get. Now, the other thing we noticed is the Alpha was very rattly because it was kind of like sort of like a science project. Did this feel more like production ready to you? Like, did it feel like a production car, like, or was like a bunch of stuff rattling around in there?
No, so I can kind of compare it to, like, I've had friends that have built kit cars before, and they just never quite seemed fully buttoned up, and this seemed very buttoned up.
Okay.
So, I mean, when they're building it, they're taking their time, and this is very nice.
Okay, because I mean, it like when you look at the things of it, there are like some panel gaps that are big, but obviously that's not affecting the rattling of it at this point. And we expect the production Aptera to be even better fit than this. And I think that their new, the way that they're making it with that CPC group, it's going to be like really tight, super tight. Yeah,
I agree.
Like the tolerances will be a lot better even.
He talked a little bit about that. Here you go.
So one of the cool things when I showed up at the event was Chris walked me up and said, "Hey, have you seen this? Look, it's the solar hood on the nose and it's the first time it's out in the wild. And it was just, oh man, like, so the car was like functioning solar out in the wild.
Out in the wild. Amazing. Wild being middle of Los Angeles, wasn't it? Just talking up nonsense.
Like it was super cool to see. And of course, I'm absolutely fascinated by the exposed copper bus bars. If they can make that happen.
I've just this morning watched a new video by the Cretin all about the nose cone addition of solar cells, where you can't see the bus bars here splitting, but the first thing he shows is a few of the bus bars splitting, and then he shows bigger examples of those air pockets or something, those light blue spots that you can see to the right of the bus bar. Other parts of the nose have bigger conditions of this, which looks like just poor workmanship. So while he's been shown it right standing in front of it, he hasn't picked up on how badly it's put together.
Like, to me, that's such a signature move. It is, I mean, it's like the Rolls-Royce Spirit of Ecstasy on the hood. This is like, could be the greatest calling card ever. So hopefully they make that happen. But it was very cool to see it, be one of the first people to actually see it outside of Aptera.
This was a pretty cool explanation of what it looks like at night.
So one of the cool things is that there was a couple, she was like, oh, I really wish I would have got to see it in the day. And I was like, oh, trust me, this is the best time to see it because everybody sees it in the day. Nobody gets to see it at night when it's lit up, and how the lights off of the front wheel skirts reflect off the body. People don't get to see this. They don't get to see how nice the LED lights light up the cockpit. So you're really getting to see it at a moment that's super rare. Like, people don't get to see it like this. And I was really surprised with the two LEDs that were above the mirror, how nice and evenly it lit up the cockpit. Like, it wasn't harsh. It just had a really nice glow to it. So everything was very visible. The videos don't do it justice. Like,
Right.
the light
It's a little grainy.
so good.
This is why Disneyland lights up so well.
Real life.
And unfortunately, you didn't get too much of a look at the UI, huh?
No, you know what? I really wish, like I said, I was pretty geeking out on the whole thing. Like, here's me. I'm all surprised that I put my camera inside the.
Speaking of his camera, I actually made a comment on a prior video somewhere that he should have got his phone out and done some filming. But now I realise that he came prepared with a proper camera, and he spent all day using it. In fact, you'll notice that in the night scenes that he's playing around, sitting in the car, looking at himself in the mirror and stuff like that with his camera. And yet I don't know, it must have been 10 hours of being there up until the ride, he still, with his camera, never took much of a look at that center screen and what it could tell us.
The cockpit. And then all of a sudden I realized I was looking at myself on the side mirror.
Right. And that was one of the things that we didn't get to see it fully charged. Like, I wasn't sure if those side mirror monitors in front of the yoke were actually functional or not. But they're clearly functional. They're working.
Yeah, they're working.
Yeah, because you can see, you were like just taking it and you're like, oh, there you are. Like, that's you being shown off the camera there, right?
That was like my aha moment.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh, wait a minute. Like, I'm right there. Because I think every time I've seen it, like, even semi-functional, it always was like pointed up in the air. And so you couldn't really tell anything, and you couldn't tell. And I thought, I mean, even though this has been, the video's grainy because of, it's trying to get an ISO that works in this dark and automatic mode. I think the screen looked really clear and the camera looked really clear.
And yeah, wow, you got the first ride of anyone I know of that's in the Gamma. That's pretty cool. I think like if anyone else has ridden it, they are not allowed to like talk about it or at least film it. My suspicion, you know, my guess is that this thing is not built with the carbon fiber stuff. I think this is still built with the old honeycomb sandwich. That's my guess.
Yeah, he had to add a particularly stupid guess because so there are a few little suspicious things. The square windows and the driver being shown hours before he was driven. The fact that he loved the scenery more than he loved the car. Um, the fact that he just raves and raves that everybody's awesome and that the car is more like a rocket than a fast vehicle. You know, there are many performance cars that it is slower than, but this one is like a rocket. Everything is exaggerated to the hilt. And I just wonder whether he's put up to it. Well, all I can say is that's all from me this time. Bye for now.